The Alpha King's secret mate. A rejected Omega's revenge and forbidden love story. The scream that tore through the midnight court was mine, but I barely recognized my own voice. My twin sister, Celeste, stood over me with empty eyes and a crystal vial in her hand. The same vial that had held the wolfsbane poison I'd just watched her slip into the Alpha King's wine. The same poison that was now coursing through my veins because I'd switched our glasses at the last second. An instinct born from years of protecting her from her own reckless decisions. Welcome to my channel, Rose and Retribution. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. You stupid, stupid girl, Celeste hissed. But there was something wrong with her voice. It was too cold, too calculated. This wasn't the sister I'd raised after our parents died. You were supposed to let him drink it. Now everything is ruined. The ballroom spun around me as the poison took hold. Through my blurring vision, I could see the Alpha King himself, Kale Nightshade, the most feared ruler in 5 territories, striding toward us with murder in his silver eyes. Behind him, his elite guard had already surrounded the area, trapping us like prey. Seize them both, Kale commanded, his voice like gravel and thunder. I tried to speak, to explain, but my tongue had gone numb. The wolfsbane was military grade, meant to kill an alpha in minutes. For an Omega like me with no supernatural healing, I had seconds. A king's unexpected mercy. Strong arms caught me before I hit the marble floor. The scent hit me first, pine and midnight rain, power and danger. The Alpha King had caught me. His silver eyes bore into mine, and I saw something flicker there. Recognition? Impossible. We'd never met. This one drank the poison meant for me, Kale announced to the room, his voice cutting through the chaos. Why would an assassin poison herself? She's not the assassin, Your Majesty, Celeste said quickly, and I heard the lie in her voice even as darkness crept into my vision. My poor sister, Sarah. She must have accidentally. Silence. The single word from Kale made Celeste's mouth snap shut. He looked down at me, and his expression softened almost imperceptibly. You have 30 seconds before this poison stops your heart. I can save you, but you'll owe me a debt. Do you accept? I managed the barest nod. What choice did I have? What happened next should have been impossible. The Alpha King bit his own wrist and pressed it to my lips. Royal blood, the rarest, most powerful healing substance in existence. As his blood touched my tongue, power exploded through my body. The poison burned away, but something else took its place. Something that made my skin feel too tight and my heart race for entirely different reasons. The mate bond snapped into place with the force of a lightning strike. No. This couldn't be happening. Kale's eyes widened, and I knew he felt it too. The Alpha King of the Midnight Court, the man known for his cruelty, his absolute power, his decree that he would never take a mate, was my fated pair. And I had just watched my sister try to assassinate him. Betrayal in the blood. Impossible, Kale breathed, but his grip on me tightened. Possessive, protective. His alpha instincts had already kicked in, recognizing me as his even as his rational mind rebelled against it. Your Majesty, please. Celeste was begging now, and I could hear the desperation in her voice. My sister is innocent. She knew nothing about. But you did. Kale's voice dropped to a lethal whisper as he gently set me on my feet, though he kept one arm around my waist. I was grateful for it. My legs felt like water. You knew exactly what you were doing. The question is why. I found my voice, though it came out raspy from the poison. Celeste, what have you done? My sister's beautiful face crumpled, but I saw the calculation behind her tears. I had to, Sarah. They have Mother. The Crimson Brotherhood. They said they'd kill her if I didn't poison the Alpha King during tonight's peace treaty celebration. The room erupted in chaos. The Crimson Brotherhood was a rogue faction that had been terrorizing the territories for years. If they had our mother, if she was even still alive after disappearing 3 years ago, then Celeste had been caught in an impossible situation. But she'd also been willing to let me die to save herself. Our mother is dead, I said flatly, the truth I'd accepted years ago finally spoken aloud. She died in the fire that destroyed our pack. You know this, Celeste? No. My sister lunged toward me, but Kale's guards intercepted her. She's alive, Sarah. They proved it to me. They showed me. What did they show you? Kale demanded, his alpha power rolling over the room like a physical force. Even I felt compelled to answer, and the command wasn't directed at me. Celeste pulled a photograph from her dress pocket with shaking hands. A guard brought it to Kale, who studied it with a frown. Then he handed it to me. My breath caught. It was our mother, or someone who looked exactly like her. Standing in front of a plain gray wall. She was holding today's newspaper. It's fake, I whispered, but doubt crept in. It has to be. The photograph is real, Kale said quietly. But that doesn't mean the situation is what they claimed. He looked at his captain of the guard. Marcus, I want every resource we have hunting the Crimson Brotherhood. If they have this woman, I want her found. If they're using her image to manipulate these girls, I want to know why. Yes, Your Majesty.
À dangereux proposition.
Kale turned back to me, and the mate bond hummed between us, making my skin tingle. Sarah, is it? We need to talk. Privately. Celeste screamed as the guards dragged her away. Don't let him manipulate you, Sarah. He's a monster. Everyone knows what he does to people who cross him. The ballroom had gone silent. Every wolf in attendance staring at us with barely concealed shock. The Alpha King, who had sworn never to take a mate, had just been publicly revealed to have a fated bond. The political implications were staggering. Come, Kale said, and it wasn't quite a command, but it wasn't a request either. He led me through a side door into a private chamber. The moment the door closed, cutting us off from prying eyes, he turned to face me. Without his public mask of cruelty, he looked younger, tired, almost vulnerable. You saved my life, he said bluntly. Whether you meant to or not, you drank poison intended for me. I didn't know it was poison. I just saw Celeste acting strange, and I've spent my whole life protecting her from her own bad decisions. Switching the glasses was instinct. An instinct that revealed you're my mate. Kale's voice was rough. Do you understand what that means? It means the moon goddess has a twisted sense of humor. I shot back, then immediately regretted it. You didn't sass the Alpha King, mate bond or not. But Kale laughed. A real, genuine laugh that transformed his entire face. I've been thinking the same thing for the last 5 minutes. His expression sobered. I need to be honest with you, Sarah. I've spent 2 centuries avoiding a mate bond. I've seen what love does to powerful wolves. It makes them weak, makes them vulnerable. I swore I would rule alone. Then reject me. The words hurt to say, but I forced them out. I won't fight it. I won't cause you political problems. Just let me go, find my sister, and I can't. The confession seemed torn from him. The moment my blood touched your lips, the moment the bond snapped into place, I felt something I haven't felt in centuries. Hope, purpose, like I'd been wandering in darkness and suddenly found light. He stepped closer, and I could feel the heat radiating from him. But I also can't let the court see me as weak. Can't let my enemies think I've found a vulnerability they can exploit. So what are you saying? Kale's silver eyes met mine, and I saw the cunning that had kept him in power for 200 years. I'm saying we play a game. Publicly, you're my prisoner, the sister of a would-be assassin, kept close for questioning. That gives me a reason to keep you near, to protect you from both the Brotherhood and the court politics that would destroy you the moment they realized you're my mate. And privately? Privately, we figure out what this bond means. We find your mother, or find out the truth about her death. We hunt the Brotherhood and make them pay for trying to use you against me. His hand came up to cup my cheek, the gesture surprisingly gentle. And we see if maybe, just maybe, the moon goddess was right about us. The price of protection. You want to pretend I'm your prisoner while secretly courting me? I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. That's insane. That's politics. Kale's thumb brushed across my cheekbone, and I felt the spark of the mate bond intensify. I've survived this long by making people underestimate me, by hiding my true intentions behind brutality. If the court thinks you're just another prisoner, they won't realize you've become the most important person in my territory. But Celeste will be treated fairly, I promise you. If she was truly coerced by the Brotherhood, she'll be given mercy. But she stays in custody until we know the full truth. His expression hardened. Someone orchestrated this assassination attempt very carefully, Sarah. They knew about the peace treaty celebration, knew I'd be vulnerable in a crowd, and they chose your sister specifically. Why? I hadn't thought about that. We're nobody, just orphaned Omegas from a destroyed pack. We have no political connections, no power, no. Everyone is somebody to someone, Kale interrupted. And the Brotherhood doesn't make random choices. There's a reason they targeted Celeste, a reason they showed her that photograph. His eyes searched mine. What aren't you telling me about your mother? My throat tightened. Before she died in the fire, she was researching something. Ancient bloodlines, old pack magic that had been forgotten. She said she was close to a breakthrough that would change everything for Omegas, give us power we'd lost centuries ago. But she died before she could finish. Kale went very still. Ancient bloodline magic. Sarah, do you know what you might be? An Omega with no powers and a talent for healing minor wounds. Why? Because 200 years ago, there was a bloodline of Omegas who could do something unprecedented. They could share their life force with others, heal mortal wounds, even bring wolves back from the brink of death. But the bloodline was thought to be extinct, wiped out during the Great Purge. His grip on my face tightened. What if it's not? What if you're? The door burst open. Marcus, the captain of the guard, stood there with blood on his uniform. Your Majesty, we have a situation. The prisoner, Celeste, she's escaped. And she left a message carved into her cell wall. What message? I demanded, dread pooling in my stomach. Marcus's eyes met mine with pity. It says, I'm sorry, sister, but they have mother and they'll have you too. The Brotherhood always collects its debts. Kale swore viciously. Lock down the palace. Nobody in or out. Marcus, I want. He never got to finish the command. The window exploded inward in a shower of glass. 3 figures in crimson masks dropped into the room, moving with supernatural speed. 1 went for Kale, 2 for me. Run! Kale roared, already shifting into his massive black wolf form. But I couldn't run, because as the masked figures grabbed me, I saw the symbol burned into their uniforms. The same symbol my mother had drawn in her research notes years ago, the mark of a bloodline I thought was just legend. And as they dragged me toward the broken window, I heard one of them laugh. The Alpha King's mate and the last blood healer. The Brotherhood thanks you for the gift, Your Majesty. Then we were gone, vanishing into the night, and I heard Kale's anguished roar echoing behind us as the mate bonds stretched and screamed in protest. The hunt had only just begun. I woke to darkness and the smell of ancient stone. My head throbbed where someone had hit me, and my wrists burned from the silver chains binding them above my head. Silver, the one metal that could suppress a wolf's abilities. Not that I had many abilities to suppress, but whoever had taken me wasn't taking chances. She's awake, a voice said from the shadows. Female, cultured, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Lights flickered on, revealing a chamber that looked like it belonged in a medieval castle. Stone walls, torches, and at the center of the room, a throne carved from black obsidian. On that throne sat a woman who made my blood run cold. She looked exactly like my mother. Hello, Sarah, the woman said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm sure you have questions. Who are you? My voice came out as a croak. You're not my mother. She died 3 years ago. Did she? The woman stood, moving with fluid grace toward me. Or did she simply disappear, along with all her research on ancient bloodlines and forgotten magic? I stared at her face. The same high cheekbones, the same green eyes, the same scar above her left eyebrow from an accident when I was 7. If you're really my mother, prove it. Tell me something only she would know. You were born during a blood moon, the woman said quietly. And when you took your first breath, every flower in a 3-mile radius bloomed, even though it was the middle of winter. Your father wanted to hide you, said you were too dangerous to let the world know about. But I refused. I knew what you could become. My breath caught. Only my mother knew that story. But the fire was staged. I faked my death because I needed the freedom to finish my research without the pack elders interfering. She knelt before me, and up close, I could see the years had aged her, could see the fanaticism burning in her eyes. And I succeeded, Sarah. I found the secret. I know how to awaken the blood healer bloodline that runs through your veins. A mother's madness. You let us think you were dead. Rage burned through me, hot and fierce. Celeste and I mourned you. We were left alone, vulnerable, struggling to survive. And you were what? Playing with ancient magic. I was building a future for you. My mother's voice rose. Do you think I wanted to leave my daughters? I did it because I had to. Because the power sleeping in your blood could change everything for Omegas. No more being treated as lesser, as weak. With the blood healer's power, you could control alphas, bring armies to their knees with a touch. That's not healing, I said, horrified. That's power. The new voice came from the doorway. A man entered, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing the crimson robes of the Brotherhood's elite. The kind of power the old families tried to suppress. The kind of power we're going to help you claim. Who are you? Darius Crimson, leader of the Brotherhood. He moved to stand beside my mother, and I saw the possessive way his hand rested on her shoulder. And your mother's partner in this endeavor. Understanding crashed over me. You're using her research to restore the natural order, Darius interrupted smoothly. For too long, alphas have held all the power. Your mother's research proves that Omegas were once the most powerful wolves in existence. Healers who could grant life or take it away with a touch. We're simply awakening what was always meant to be. By kidnapping me? By forcing my sister to try to assassinate the Alpha King. My mother's expression flickered with something that might have been guilt. Celeste wasn't supposed to involve you. She was supposed to kill Kale Nightshade and prove her loyalty to our cause. But she always was weak, too attached to you. She leaned closer. But maybe it worked out better this way, because now you've bonded with the Alpha King, and that bond is the final component we need. Ice flooded my veins. What are you talking about? The ritual to awaken a blood healer requires 3 elements, Darius explained, circling me like a predator. Ancient bloodline, which you have. Life force from a powerful source, which your bond with the strongest alpha in 5 territories provides. And finally, willing sacrifice. His smile was cruel. Your mate, dying by your hand. His power flowing into you as his last breath leaves his body. Kale's desperate hunt. Meanwhile, at the midnight court, Kale's fist slammed through the stone wall of his war room, leaving a crater. His second-in-command, Marcus, wisely stayed silent, waiting for the Alpha King's rage to pass. How long? Kale's voice was dangerously quiet. 6 hours since the abduction, Your Majesty. We've tracked them to the old forest, but the trail goes cold at the ruins of Blackwater Castle. There are wards preventing us from... I don't care about wards. Kale's eyes flashed silver, his alpha power making the air crackle. Sarah is my mate. The bond is screaming at me to find her, protect her. Every second she's gone is agony. He paused, then forced himself to take a breath. What about the sister, Celeste? Still missing. But we found this in her abandoned quarters. Marcus held out a leather journal, its pages worn and filled with intricate drawings. Research notes, bloodline magic, ancient rituals, and detailed maps of Brotherhood hideouts. Kale snatched the journal, scanning its contents. His expression grew darker with each page. This handwriting, it's not Celeste's. It's older, more practiced. He looked up sharply. The mother. She's alive, and she's been working with the Brotherhood for years. But why kidnap her own daughter? Because Sarah isn't just any Omega. Kale's finger traced a diagram in the journal, a ritual circle with precise notations. She's a blood healer, the last of an ancient bloodline. And according to this, with the right ritual, she could become powerful enough to control or kill any alpha she touches. Marcus's face went pale. And they have her. They have her, Kale agreed grimly. But they need one more thing to complete the ritual. My death at her hands, our mate bond fueling the transformation. He slammed the journal shut. Which means they'll keep her alive until they can lure me to them. Your Majesty, you can't be thinking of. I'm thinking, Kale interrupted coldly, that I've spent 2 centuries building power, making enemies, ruling through fear, and in one night, I found something more important than all of it. A mate who saved my life without knowing who I was, who looked at me and saw a person instead of a crown. His eyes met Marcus's. I won't lose her. Prepare the guard. We're going to Blackwater Castle. The wards won't stop me. Not when she's on the other side of them. The ritual begins. Back in the Brotherhood's lair, they had moved me to a larger chamber, the ritual circle already carved into the ancient stone floor. My mother worked around the perimeter, placing candles and herbs with precise movements. Darius stood watch, ensuring I couldn't escape the chains. You don't have to do this, I said, trying one more time to reach the woman who'd raised me. Whatever they've told you, whatever promises they've made, they've given me purpose. My mother interrupted without looking up. Do you know what it's like, Sarah? To be an Omega, to have a mind full of ideas and research, but to be dismissed because of your designation. I was laughed at by the pack elders, told to focus on bearing children and supporting an alpha mate. Her hands trembled as she placed the final candle. This work, this ritual, it's my life's achievement. It's murder. It's evolution. She finally looked at me, and I saw the woman I remembered was gone, consumed by obsession. When the Alpha King comes for you, and he will come, the mate bond will demand it, you'll kill him. His power will flow into you, awakening abilities that have been dormant for 1,000 years. And then, my darling daughter, you'll be unstoppable. I'll never do it, I said firmly. I'd rather die. You say that now, Darius said, stepping forward with a silver blade. But the ritual includes certain incentives. Blood magic has a way of overriding personal choice when properly applied. He dragged the blade across my palm. I hissed at the pain, but it was nothing compared to the horror I felt as my blood flowed into the carved channels of the ritual circle. The moment it touched the ancient grooves, the entire chamber began to glow with sickly green light. What have you done? I gasped. Begun the process, my mother said, her voice filled with terrible satisfaction. When your mate crosses the threshold of this chamber, the ritual will activate. You'll be compelled to drain his life force, and there will be nothing either of you can do to stop it. The King's Gambit. The sound of fighting echoed from somewhere above us. Shouts, the clash of steel, the snarls of wolves in combat. He's here, Darius said with a satisfied smile. Right on schedule. My heart soared and plummeted simultaneously. Kale had come for me, but he was walking into a trap. Stop him, I screamed. Kale, don't come in here. It's a trap. The ritual will force me to. Darius's hand clamped over my mouth, cutting off my warning. Too late, blood healer. Your mate is already doomed. The chamber doors exploded inward. Kale stood in the wreckage, his clothes torn from battle, blood spattering his face and hands. But his eyes, his silver eyes found mine across the room, and the mate bond sang between us, desperate and demanding. Sarah, he breathed, starting toward me. No. I screamed against Darius's hand. Don't step into the circle. But Kale's gaze had already found the ritual markings, the glowing blood channels, the way I was chained at the center. Understanding flickered across his face, but he didn't stop. I know what they're planning, he said calmly, still walking forward. I found your mother's research notes. I know about the ritual, about what it will force you to do. Then why are you? Because I'm betting on something they didn't account for. Kale stepped across the threshold of the ritual circle, and the green light exploded into blinding brilliance. I'm betting on you being stronger than their magic. The compulsion hit me like a physical force. My hands, still chained above my head, suddenly burned with power I'd never felt before. The chains shattered like glass, and I stumbled forward, my palms glowing with that same sickly green light. Kill him, my mother whispered, her voice echoing with unnatural resonance. Drain his power. Become what you were meant to be. I tried to stop myself, tried to resist the magic flooding my body, but my feet were moving of their own accord. My hands reached for Kale, and I saw my own horror reflected in his eyes. Fight it, Sarah, Kale said softly, not backing away even as death approached him. I know you're strong enough. I can't, I sobbed, my glowing hands inches from his chest. The magic is too strong. Kale, I'm so sorry I can't. Yes, you can. He caught my wrists gently, and the moment his skin touched mine, something else sparked. The mate bond, pure and bright, cutting through the sickly green compulsion. Because I felt it the moment our bond formed. You're not just a blood healer, Sarah. You're a life giver. The opposite of what they think you are. The power of choice. Understanding crashed through me even as the compulsion tried to force my hands toward his heart. The ancient bloodline hadn't been about taking life. It had been about giving it, sharing it, healing it. The Brotherhood had twisted the research, seen only the destructive potential. But the mate bond showed me the truth. You're right, I whispered, and felt something shift inside me. The green light flickered, fading. I'm not a weapon. I'm a healer. No. My mother's scream was anguished. You're ruining everything. Years of research, years of planning, years of corruption, Kale interrupted, his hands still gentle on my wrists as I fought the compulsion. You twisted your daughter's gift into something dark because you wanted power, not healing. The ritual circle's light was turning from green to gold as I focused on the mate bond, on the connection between Kale and me. Instead of draining his life force, I felt myself pouring energy into him, healing the wounds from his battle, strengthening the bond between us.
Impossible, Darius snarled.
The ritual is absolute. She should be killing you. She's an Omega, my mother said, her voice breaking. Omegas don't have the strength to fight ancient magic. This Omega does, I said clearly, feeling power flowing through me that had nothing to do with violence and everything to do with choice. Because I'm not alone. I have my mate, and together, we're stronger than your corrupted magic. The golden light exploded outward, shattering the ritual circle and sending both Darius and my mother flying backward. When the brilliance faded, I stood in the center of unmarked stone, my hands still clasped in Kale's, the mate bond blazing between us like a beacon. It's over, Kale said quietly, but his eyes were on my mother, who was struggling to her feet with Darius's help. The Brotherhood's plan failed. Sarah's not your weapon. A mother's final choice. My mother stared at me with devastation written across her face. I did this for you, she whispered. All of it for you and Celeste. To give you power in a world that would have trampled you. You did it for yourself, I said, and felt tears streaming down my face. Because you couldn't accept being an Omega. You saw it as weakness instead of strength. But I'm not ashamed of what I am, Mother. I'm proud of it. Proud that I can heal instead of harm. Proud that I chose love over power. Seize them, Kale commanded, and his guards flooded into the chamber, overwhelming the few Brotherhood members who remained. But my mother didn't fight. She simply stood there, looking at me with something like wonder. You really did break the ritual. My research said it was impossible, but you, she laughed, the sound broken. You're stronger than I ever was. Where's Celeste? I demanded. What did you do with my sister? She's safe, my mother said quietly. I sent her away before the ritual. Whatever else I've done, Sarah, I couldn't let both my daughters be part of this. She's hidden, protected, waiting for word that you survived. She met my eyes. I may have been a terrible mother, but I never stopped loving you. Even when I chose power over family, even when I let obsession consume me, I loved you. That's not enough, I said, my voice breaking. Love without trust, without honesty, without putting your children first. That's not love. That's just words. Guards came to take her away, along with Darius and the other Brotherhood members. As she passed me, my mother stopped, her chains clinking. You're right, she whispered. I failed you. But Sarah, promise me you'll find Celeste. Promise me you'll protect her from my mistakes. I promise, I said, because despite everything, she was still my mother, the dawn of something new. When the Brotherhood was secured and the guards had swept the castle for additional threats, Kale and I finally had a moment alone. We stood in the ruins of the ritual chamber, the first light of dawn streaming through the broken windows. You saved me, Kale said softly, his hand cupping my cheek. Not just today, but that first night. You reminded me what it means to have someone who sees past the crown, past the power. You saved me too, I replied, leaning into his touch. You believed I was strong enough to fight the compulsion when I didn't believe it myself. Are you afraid? He asked. Of what comes next? Being the Alpha King's mate comes with dangers you can't imagine. Political intrigue, assassination attempts, enemies on all sides. I'm terrified, I admitted. But I'm also sure. The mate bond brought us together for a reason, Kale. Maybe not just for us, but to show that Omegas can stand beside Alphas as equals. That healing and compassion are just as powerful as dominance and strength. Kale pulled me closer, and when he kissed me, I felt the mate bond settle into place completely, no longer fighting or resisting, but accepting and celebrating our connection. Then we'll face it together, he murmured against my lips. As mates, as partners, as Your Majesty. Marcus burst into the chamber, his expression urgent. We have a problem, a massive one. Kale growled, clearly irritated at the interruption, but straightened. What is it? Celeste has been found, Marcus said. But she's not alone. She's brought someone with her. Someone claiming to have information about a conspiracy that goes deeper than the Brotherhood. A conspiracy involving members of your own court. I felt Kale tense beside me. Who? Marcus's expression was grim. She won't say until she speaks with both of you. But Your Majesty. She says if you don't listen to what she has to say, the Alpha King won't survive the week. Someone very close to you is planning a coup, and they've been using the Brotherhood as a distraction. Kale and I exchanged glances, the mate bond humming with shared concern and determination. The Brotherhood's plot had been just the beginning. The real war was about to start. Celeste looked terrible. My sister's usually perfect appearance was destroyed. Her hair matted, her clothes torn, bruises covering her exposed skin. But her eyes were clear and sharp as she sat across from us in Kale's private study, flanked by guards who watched her every move. Before you say anything, she began, her voice hoarse. I want you to know I never meant for any of this to happen. They told me they had mother. They showed me proof. I thought I was saving her. Our mother was alive and working with the Brotherhood the entire time, I said, keeping my voice gentle despite the anger simmering beneath. She used you, Celeste. She manipulated both of us. My sister's face crumpled. I know. I figured it out too late. But that's not why I'm here. She leaned forward, ignoring the guards who tensed at her movement. The Brotherhood's plan to awaken Sarah's blood healer abilities wasn't their own idea. Someone in your court, Your Majesty, fed them the information. Someone who wanted you dead and needed a method that couldn't be traced back to them. Kale's expression went cold and deadly. Names. I don't have a name yet, Celeste admitted. But I have this. She pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. A letter written in elegant script. I stole it from Darius's office before I escaped. It's correspondence from someone calling themselves the Silver Wolf. They've been funding the Brotherhood, providing them with resources and intelligence about your movements. I watched Kale read the letter, saw his jaw tighten with each line. This contains information about my private schedule, he said quietly, dangerously. Details that only my inner circle would know, which means one of my most trusted advisors is a traitor. There's more, Celeste said, and pulled out a second document. This one older, yellowed with age. While I was in the Brotherhood's stronghold, I found records going back decades. The Silver Wolf has been working against you for almost 50 years, Your Majesty, slowly undermining your rule, manipulating events to make you appear cruel and tyrannical, turning pacts against you. 50 years, I breathed. That's half your reign, Kale. Which means they've been patient, Kale said grimly. They've been playing a long game, waiting for the perfect opportunity. His eyes met mine. Until I found my mate. Until I found the one thing that could make me vulnerable. The hunt begins. Over the next 3 days, Kale became someone I barely recognized. The gentle, protective mate I'd come to know disappeared, replaced by the ruthless alpha king his reputation promised. He interrogated his entire court, used his alpha authority to compel truth from suspected traitors, and systematically dismantled the power structures he'd built over 2 centuries to find the rot at their core. I watched it all with growing concern. Continue 17:10 you're scaring people, I said on the 3rd night, finding him in his war room surrounded by documents and reports. He hadn't slept since Celeste's revelation, and it showed in the dark circles under his eyes and the tension radiating from every line of his body. Good, Kale said without looking up. Fear will make the guilty reveal themselves. Fear will also make you enemies among the innocent, I countered, moving to stand beside him. You're treating your entire court like suspects. Some of these wolves have served you faithfully for decades, and one of them has been betraying me for longer. His fist slammed onto the desk, making me jump. Every mission that failed, every political setback, every alliance that fell apart. I blamed myself, thought I hadn't been strategic enough. But it wasn't my failure. It was sabotage. Someone I trusted has been destroying everything I built, and I can't even figure out who. The anguish in his voice broke my heart. I reached for him through the mate bond, sending waves of comfort and support. Then let me help you. Fresh eyes, a different perspective. You're not an investigator, Sarah. You're your mate, I interrupted firmly. Which means your problems are my problems. And I may be just an Omega, but I've spent my whole life observing people, reading emotions, seeing the things others miss because they're too focused on power dynamics. I picked up one of the reports. Let me look at this differently. Let me try. Kale studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, but Sarah, if we find the traitor, there will be consequences. My justice is not kind. I know, I said quietly, though the thought made me uneasy. But we'll deal with that when we get there. A blood healer's insight. I spent the next 2 days doing something I'd never done before, using my abilities intentionally. The blood healer gift wasn't just about physical healing, I discovered. It was about sensing life force, reading the energy patterns of those around me, feeling the truth beneath the lies. One by one, I met with Kale's inner circle. I served them tea, touched their hands in greeting, and felt the resonance of their loyalty or lack thereof. Most were exactly what they appeared, devoted wolves who genuinely served their king. But 3 stood out, their energy patterns wrong somehow, like discordant notes in a symphony. Elder Marcus, Kale's oldest advisor, who had served since the beginning of his reign. Lady Celine, the court's political strategist, known for her brilliance and ruthless efficiency. And Commander Drake, head of the military forces, a wolf whose reputation for loyalty was legendary. One of these 3 is the Silver Wolf, I told Kale after my investigations. I can feel the deception in them, but I can't tell which one. Their lies are too deep, too practiced. Then we set a trap, Kale decided. We give each of them different false information, each piece seemingly valuable but ultimately harmless. Whichever piece makes it to our enemies first will tell us who the traitor is. It was a good plan, but I couldn't shake the feeling we were missing something important. The revelation. The trap worked almost too well. Within a day of planting the false information, Kale's spy network intercepted a message leaving the palace. Detailed plans for a fake military movement that we'd only shared with Commander Drake. "It's him," Kale said, his voice hollow with betrayal. "Drake has been my military commander for 90 years. He saved my life in the Northern Wars. I trusted him with everything." "Your Majesty," Marcus burst into the study, his face pale. "Commander Drake has fled. His quarters are empty, and the stable master reports he took a horse an hour ago." "Send out every patrol," Kale ordered, alpha power making the command absolute. "I want him found, alive if possible. I want answers before I end him." But I barely heard the orders. Something was nagging at me, a detail that didn't fit. "Kale, wait. How did Drake get the message out so quickly?" "We only told him the false information this morning. And you have wards on the palace that prevent unauthorized communications." Kale froze. "You're right. Unless..." His eyes widened with horrified understanding. "Unless there are two traitors. One working openly, and one covering their tracks." "Your Majesty," a new voice said from the doorway. Lady Selene stood there, her usual composed expression replaced with cold satisfaction. "I'm afraid you've finally figured it out, though I had hoped the old fool would keep you distracted a bit longer." In her hand was a crossbow, loaded with a silver bolt aimed directly at Kale's heart. "The true enemy." "Selene," Kale said, and the betrayal in his voice was deeper than before. "You've been my chief strategist for 150 years. You helped me end 3 wars, broker a dozen peace treaties." "Why?" "Because you're in my way," Selene said simply. She moved into the room with predatory grace, the crossbow never wavering. Behind her, a dozen guards filed in, guards who should have been loyal to Kale, but whose expressions showed only cold obedience to Selene. "I've been grooming these wolves for decades, Your Majesty. Slowly building my own force within your military. All those soldiers you thought were yours, they're mine." "The Silver Wolf," I breathed, understanding crashing over me. It was never just about killing Kale. It was about replacing him. "Clever Omega," Selene purred. "Yes, the plan was always regime change. Kale Nightshade has ruled for 2 centuries with an iron fist, making enemies of half the territories while alienating his own people with brutal policies. I've been documenting every cruelty, every questionable decision, building a case for why someone else, someone more reasonable, more diplomatic, should lead." "Someone like you," Kale said flatly. "Someone exactly like me." Selene's smile was sharp. "I've already secured agreements from 7 major pacts. When news breaks that the tyrannical Alpha King was killed by his own mate, a tragic result of blood healer magic gone wrong, they'll call for new leadership. And I'll be there to provide it." My blood ran cold. "You're going to make it look like I killed him." "With Commander Drake's convenient betrayal providing the distraction, yes. He thinks he's escaping to freedom, but really he's riding straight into an ambush where he'll be killed resisting arrest. And you, dear Sarah, will be executed for regicide after the blood healer compulsion overwhelms you and you murder your mate." She shrugged elegantly. "It's not personal. You both just need to die for my vision to succeed. The blood healer's choice." "You won't get away with this," Kale snarled, and I felt his alpha power building. "My guards are mine," Selene interrupted. "All of them in this wing of the palace. Did you really think you could investigate your own court without me noticing? I've been 10 steps ahead of you since the beginning, Kale. The Brotherhood, the assassination attempt, even Sarah becoming your mate. All of it has played into my hands." "Wait," I said, a horrible suspicion forming. "You knew about my bloodline. You knew what my mother was researching." "I funded her research," Selene confirmed. "Found her 15 years ago when she first started investigating ancient Omega bloodlines. The plan was always to create a weapon powerful enough to kill an Alpha King, then ensure that weapon was bonded to him through a mate connection. The brotherhood was just the delivery mechanism. But the ritual failed, Kale said. Sarah's not your weapon. The ritual failed, Celine agreed. But that doesn't mean I can't improvise. You see, I've been studying blood healer magic myself these past few months. And I've discovered something fascinating. The compulsion to drain life force can be triggered externally. You don't need a ritual circle. You just need the right catalyst. She pulled out a vial of silvery liquid, the same substance that had glowed green during the Brotherhood's ritual. This is concentrated bloodbane, enhanced with dark magic. 1 drop on Sarah's skin, and she'll become exactly the weapon we tried to create. She'll drain your life force whether she wants to or not, and then I'll have my guards execute her for the crime. No. I backed away from Celine, but her corrupted guards surrounded me, cutting off escape. I won't let you do this. You don't have a choice, dear. Celine moved forward with the vial. But she hadn't counted on one thing, the mate bond.